I just want to preface this video by saying everything that I talk about is all alleged and my personal opinion based on the information and documentation that I have, as well as my own personal experiences. Every person that I mention within this video is presumed innocent until proven guilty within a court of law. Please do not contact or harass a single person that I name and list within this video. It is not my intention for anyone to be harassed, and it is not my intention for anyone to be placed in danger. Instead, I am asking for your help in sharing my mom's story and my own personal story. I am asking for help in getting truth and justice for my murdered mother, Karen Frances Brown. Thank you very much.
Hello, hello, sweet honeybees. Welcome to the Electric Honey Pot Project, where energy is the nectar of life. In this hive, we know that energy does not lie, but sometimes people do. My name is Autumn, and in this episode, I'm out for blood. My own blood, to be exact. I am done putting my faith in a broken justice system that does not care about victims or truth unless it is a case that can be used to manipulate the masses and push some kind of political agenda on the American population. I am coming out to play in a very big way, and I'm going to sting where it counts. In this episode, I will be revisiting my mother's murder case. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about where we are currently at, the state of her case. I'm also going to be covering the case itself and include some clips that I have pulled from Facebook Live videos that I don't think the police have ever given time or attention to, that I most definitely find troubling. And then I am finally going to show you some legal evidence that I have uncovered with the help of my brother in law and my sister that shows proof of lying, withholding information, and suggests that there is something suspicious going on within my family surrounding my mom's death that the police do not care to investigate. I am asking you to please listen to what I have to say because my mom mattered. She was a human being and her life mattered. And this is so much bigger than her story because she is not the only victim that is being neglected by the very people that our taxes pay to keep us safe. I am advocating for truth and justice, not just for my mom, but for other victims that are not receiving the time, attention, and care that they are worthy of as human beings. My mom is the inspiration for every single thing that I am working towards and trying to create with the Electric Honey Pot Project. So, grab your sunglasses because I am about to illuminate this dark world, starting with my own family and police negligence. Since day one, the police have never taken my mother's murder case seriously. I don't know if they ever will unless I get help putting pressure on them, which is exactly why I am making this video now and asking the public for their help. My sister was told from the very beginning by one of the detectives that is involved in all of this that it is very easy to get away with murder in the state of New Mexico due to corruption within the state. And it has just kind of felt like from the very beginning, they have been prepping us to not receive justice or a favorable outcome in this situation. It has honestly felt very hopeless from the very beginning. I once called the Department of Justice in New Mexico to find out information on how I could submit a complaint against the county sheriff's office that is responsible for investigating my mother's murder, because I called the detective trying to give the same information that I am going to talk about in this episode, just to have the police chief scream at me over the phone. Um, and all I was doing was trying to get my mom's case to be taken seriously because she was my mother and I loved her. But I was told by the person that I spoke with at the New Mexico Department of Justice that there isn't really a way for me to complain or to hold them accountable because of the corruption and negligence within the state. This person told me over the phone that the very people that are responsible for training these officers are the same ones that are meant to hold them accountable. So, how can there be any kind of accountability when the same people that are training are the ones that are supposed to be the ones that investigate as well? Recently, in January, I have learned that there is actually a good chance that the man that violently ended my mom's life might get away with it. He might get to walk free amongst the population. And this would give him the chance to harm yet another person. And the reason why this is a very real possibility is because of police negligence. It's because of the way my mother's case has not been taken seriously and it's been mishandled from the very beginning. I say yet another chance to hurt another person because my mom is not the first victim of physical abuse by this man. Most definitely not the only emotional abuse victim by this man, because I have also been victimized by this man. But my mom is just the most recent to be physically abused, and she happened to lose her life in the process. This case has bounced around between multiple different prosecutors. From what I have heard, it has been 5 of them because no one wants to take a case that they think there is a good chance they might lose, because then it hurts their image as the state prosecutor. It hurts their image as the county prosecutor. It just hurts their image in general, so they don't want to take a case that they may lose. I have learned that a key witness that they have built the vast majority of their case upon stopped contact with the police and then moved to another state. And now the police can't find that person. So, this person that was supposed to help put this man behind bars, who happens to be related to this man, is now missing. I have learned that this man is being offered a plea deal of only 10 years for manslaughter with a year already served. Before his arrest, he was allowed to walk free within society for 2.5 years after killing my mom. Meanwhile, she was a pile of ashes within a box. This is an insult considering the degree of cruelty within his actions, not just towards my mom, but towards their 3 dogs as well. We were told to be quiet by the police. Don't talk about it because it'll hurt their investigation. It'll hurt the case if we talk by calling attention to it. Yet, their negligence in investigating has hurt the case. There wasn't even a news story about what happened to my mom until 2.5 years later when this man was finally arrested. And get this, they weren't even looking for him. They issued a warrant that they didn't tell us about. And then he was arrested in a completely unrelated sting operation that the state of New Mexico was doing. He happened to drive past a scanner where they saw he had an active warrant, and then they followed him to his house and arrested him. And it's just really frustrating because we were not told that they had finally issued a warrant. In fact, it has been like pulling teeth trying to get any kind of information about my mom's case because the police seem annoyed and hostile with us anytime we try to communicate with them. And I feel like part of that is because my aunt has been harassing the police department when my aunt is not even supposed to be the point of contact for the detective. It is supposed to be my sister. But it has just been so frustrating. And the police were not even keeping tabs on this man. Despite the nature of his crimes, they allowed him to cross over state lines. They had no idea where he was during a 2.5 year time frame, despite what he did to my mother, which I'm about to get into. I am done being silent because I know that there is more to my mother's story. No one is taking it seriously, so I will. I am not a detective. I am not an advocate. Well, I am now. I'm both of those things now. I have been forced to become both of those things because our justice system does not give a fuck. I need your help spreading her story. I need your help to put pressure on our justice system to do the job that we are paying it to do. How can they claim that they have done all that they can to build a solid case against a person when they leave possible connections unchecked? How can they say that there is legitimate justice when they have not thoroughly investigated a crime and every moving piece attached to the crime? My mother deserves a thorough investigation. All murder victims do. And society, we deserve these crimes to be thoroughly investigated because this is exactly how killers get to get out and walk amongst us, is because the police are negligent in doing their jobs. Here's my mom's story. My mom's name was Karen Frances Brown, maiden name Saunders. She was brutally murdered on August 17th of 2022, just a few days after her 56th birthday. She had moved to New Mexico a month prior with her boyfriend to supposedly build a house in the New Mexico desert by hand. Despite her numerous physical health problems, including multiple autoimmune diseases that caused blood clots and mini strokes. My disabled mother was beaten in the head with an aluminum baseball bat, and then she was left to rot in the New Mexico desert while the man responsible fled the state in her truck with her cell phone. And he left two of their three dogs locked in the RV in the heat to dehydrate and starve. At some point during or after the killing, my mom's elderly, blind and deaf Shih Tzu, Bowser, was shot in the head. Dennis hated that dog. I witnessed this myself. I'm going to play a clip for you now showing you a snippet of how he treated this dog.
Well, Bowser ended up going down the hole. He can't see.
I'm playing this clip because this man, Dennis, he is claiming self-defense. My mom had a big heart, especially for animals. I'm going to play another clip for you that happened while she was out in New Mexico. In this clip, Dennis runs over a rodent, like a desert rodent, and my mom is heard getting upset about it while he just sounds annoyed that she's calling it out.
he killed a little dead rodent. We're trying to figure out what they are. They're so cute. They have a little puff ball. Put Buddy up so he wouldn't come get it. Don't really know what they are, but they're deep down in the ground. Just trying to catch a live one. You killed it! I know. Sometimes we don't use our head.
I have one more clip for you that I want to introduce before I play. I believe my mom knew that she was going to die in New Mexico. And not just because she was being abused and because she had told me she was scared that this man may hurt her one day. After moving to New Mexico, she regularly posted what she was having for dinner and went on Facebook Live to provide updates of what they were doing. She was documenting the events of her days there. These videos are actually where I have taken the clips that I am showing you from. In these videos, the formula is always the same. She describes what their plans are. She reveals that they haven't accomplished anything. And then she talks about how much she misses her friends and family. Once she talks about how much she misses her friends and family, she starts trying to convince the listener that the reason that she moved out there was for her health. Every time I watch these videos, I feel so uneasy hearing the sarcastic tone of her voice. She was not talking like normal anymore, and I can hear the exhaustion behind her words. I think she was trying to convince herself, as much as she was the listener, to ease how lonely and scared she was out in the desert with that man. I think she knew the truth, and I believe I found evidence to suggest this in one of her live videos. I'm going to play the clip for you now.
And maybe we'll start building. We'll see. We're not in any hurry. We're just taking our time. We work when we want and rest when we don't. No time schedule. Dennis kind of got aggravated the other day in Home Depot because we had to wait in line. Somebody didn't know what they was doing. And I said, what are you in such a hurry for? We don't have anything planned. So it's a different kind of life. But we're getting there. I see him sitting outside. But as you can see, it did pretty good. The rain helped us a bunch.
Why does she say it's not like we have anything planned like that? I just find it really odd. She changes the subject once she mentions that she can see Dennis sitting outside of the RV when she's returning from her walk. The video was recorded while she was on a walk with her small Pekingese dog. And in the clip, she says that she goes on a lot of walks because Kalua, the dog, doesn't like to be pent up all day. And I feel like she's explaining how she feels, but she's projecting it onto her dog. I think she was going on these walks because it was the only way that she could get away from him while living out in the desert where she didn't know anybody. She didn't know where she was. She had lived pretty much her entire life here in Tennessee. By the way, that dog used to be fearfully aggressive. It never let me touch it the entire time my mom was alive. But once my mom died and Kalua moved in with my sister, Kalua had like this complete transformation. She became friendly and outgoing and loving. She's a completely different dog. Every time I see her, she's all over me now. And you cannot tell me that it is not related to Dennis. In fact, My own Labradoodle had strange behavioral problems after he spent a short period back in 2018 living with my mom while she was dating this man. And I believe that it's because of him. I took my dogs home that day because Dennis verbally abused me while I was over there and verbally abused my mother. And I told her that I couldn't have her in my life if she's going to be around that because it's bad for my mental health as well. Moving on, I want to get into the evidence I have that there's more to the story that the police are ignoring. I know this is going to be kind of long, but please bear with me because this is important. I don't have documentation of everything, but I have more than enough to suggest that something fishy is going on. I have more than enough to warrant some kind of investigation. I'm not just some upset family member about money. I don't give a fuck about the money. It is about the truth of why my mom is dead and what my family has done, how they have used her murder as leverage. On August 24th of 2021, my grandfather, John Robert Saunders, established an income-only, non-revocable trust fund to help protect assets and continue providing support for my elderly grandmother should he die first. Upon the death of my grandmother, the assets within this trust fund were meant to be evenly distributed between their three kids, from oldest to youngest, my uncle Jonathan Brady Saunders, my mother Karen Frances Brown, and the youngest, my aunt Terry Lynn Saunders Ortiz. It was set up as non-revocable to prevent the mishandling of the assets and to help support my grandmother after his death because my grandmother was in poor health herself. She was not as mentally competent as she once was, and she had never paid a bill a day in her life because within the Christian patriarchy, that is not the woman's place, it is the man's place. So, my grandfather set up this trust fund to make sure that my grandmother would be completely taken care of if he were not alive anymore. What I'm showing you now is a lawyer specialized in these kinds of trusts explaining exactly what they are for. Now, I lived with my grandparents and I had a very close relationship with them right after this trust was established due to a spinal injury that I sustained after a physical assault. Go figure, it was the police that assaulted me. I have an episode about that in my podcast as well. If you would like to hear my story of my experiences facing other types of injustice within the legal system. But anyway, this isn't about that. I saw the size of this trust fund when I lived with my grandparents. It was in these gigantic binders. My grandfather had like this real estate empire with multiple rental properties and commercial buildings. He had multiple bank accounts. I also overheard my grandfather talking to my grandmother about how the trust fund should keep the kids from fighting over the inheritance because my grandparents were fully aware that money was going to be an issue between their children once they die. Not for my mom, because my mom was never the one that cared about money, but most definitely my aunt and my uncle. And what do you know? We're in this situation now. There are a lot of things that I actually witnessed happening that I find odd once I moved out of their house that I've spoken about before in previous episodes, but I want to primarily focus on the aspects that tie into the physical proof I have and the circumstances in this video. My grandmother passed away on August 10th of 2023. In the middle of March 2024, my sister and I received a letter from trust lawyer Stan Perchowski, dated or Pirchowski, I honestly don't know how his name is pronounced, dated March 7th of 2024. This letter states that our mother was entitled to 1/3 of the content of the trust at the time of our grandparents' death. It lists the original date of the trust fund filed for the amounts that are included within this letter. I immediately knew something was wrong, so my sister and I both began requesting copies of the trust fund, but we had no luck doing that. Mr. Petrosky would not provide copies to either of us. So I used the last $1,000 I had from us having to sell our mom's house to hire a lawyer, which also put the house that I bought with the money from selling my mom's house into foreclosure within just half a year of me buying this house. But it was worth it to me because, again, this house is just a material possession, and I value the truth above all else. To reduce our lawyer fees, our lawyer, John Baker III, had us pull recorded deeds for properties he noticed changed ownership on April 11th, 2023, months before our grandmother died. He sent a letter to Mr. Perchowski advising that our mother's estate had been closed in 2023. Now, here's the thing. My sister had reached out to our Uncle Brady and asked him if closing our mother's estate would have any kind of effect on our inheritance. Our uncle told her that it would not affect the inheritance in any way, but I feel like closing the estate may tie into part of what is going on within this situation. I don't believe my uncle advised my sister correctly. I think he advised her in a way that would serve himself. Mr. Baker requested a copy of the trust with inventory and accounting, just as we did. He also asked Mr. Perchowski who the current trustee over the estate was. And this is where I have caught this estate law lawyer, Stan Perchowski, in a lie covering for my uncle and one of his employees. And I'm honestly a bit frustrated that Mr. Baker did not catch this himself when he is a lawyer. I'm really frustrated that he didn't find it suspicious. But then again, I also did not catch it in the moment. Mr. Petrosky sent a letter to Mr. Baker dated April 22nd, 2024. In this letter, he lists the current trustees over the estate as our aunt, Terry Lynn Saunders Ortiz, and our uncle, Jonathan Brady Saunders. But here's the truth. According to public record, they had not been trustees since March 22nd of 2023, more than a year before Stan Perchowski ever even typed up this letter. The real trustee at this time was realty business partner and property manager for Brady, Brenda White. Mr. Perchowski makes no mention of Brenda's involvement throughout this entire process. It's as if she doesn't exist, like she's a ghost, like she's not involved at all. But she's the one that's pulling all of the strings. Well, not really. She's the one that's doing the dirty work for my uncle. We were never sent copies of the original or updated trust fund, even as our lawyer requested a second time. Instead, Mr. Perchowski sent excerpts from the trust stating the conditions of income only without allowing our lawyer to view the full documents and have a full understanding of what the situation is.
In these trust excerpts that are provided from Mr. Perchowski, it references multiple different sections and articles within the trust fund that we never had any access to or information regarding. Like, for example, it talks about my mom's distribution and it says, except as provided in Article 8, entitled Administration of Trusts for Underage and Incapacitated Beneficiaries. We never got to see Article 8 because we were only provided Article 3, Section 3 through Article 7, Section 1.
Why would they withhold this information? Well, here's why. Brenda White had outright conveyed multiple properties out of the trust fund directly into Terry and Brady's names for $10 each on April 11th of 2023. This effectively removed income earning assets from the trust fund. Over $500,000 in assets, income earning assets to be exact. And if we want to factor in my grandparents' farmhouse and their land, we are talking about around $2 million in assets that were removed from this trust fund and put directly into my aunt and my uncle's names for less than $100. I'm going to take a moment to show documentation of all of this now. Feel free to pause the video to read. My family wants to call me a selfish, horrible person and a liar for standing up for myself and my mother. But what is all of this that they are hiding and lying about? I have more questions about properties that are not in these deeds. The biggest one being a house my grandfather bought in 2020 after a church member died that has had people living in it since the year my mom was murdered. Public records as of March 2024 show the house still belonging to our grandparents. But where does it factor into the trust fund? Where is the money from the selling of that house that was listed for almost $600,000? If it is being rented, where's the rental income?
Hi, Editing Autumn here. I'm back because I realized I forgot to talk about something very important in the original script and video that I recorded. So, in the original letter that my sister and I received from Mr. Perchowski stating that 1/3 of our grandfather's trust was ready to be paid out to us as beneficiaries of our mother's estate, it states that we are entitled to 1/3 of the sale of a commercial building, a commercial property. Well, in this letter, it states 1/3 as being $60,000. Meanwhile, public record shows that this building, this property, sold for $360,000. 60 times 3, that's 180. The math ain't mathin'. Where is the other $180,000? And from what I have gathered, what my sister has told me, my aunt and my uncle are receiving monthly payments on this property, but still, their third of the sale of this commercial building is $150,000 each, while my sister and I have been told and given $30,000 each as a third of the sale of this building. And something else that I find very interesting is this sale went through literally right as my mom rushed out to New Mexico. My mom posted on social media that she didn't even get to say goodbye to my grandmother. She left in a hurry, and it happened at the exact same time as this sale was finalizing. Where is all the money? Where did it go? The timeline of events makes no sense. The math is not mathing. It doesn't make sense. I want to throw in one more thing. In that Facebook post where my mom's talking about how she didn't even say goodbye, she says, I want you to be with me. Maybe one day you want to, but I understand you also wanting to be home. My mother had tried to convince my elderly grandmother to move out to the desert in the middle of nowhere. My grandmother with health issues. My mom had health issues. She tried to convince my elderly grandmother to move out to the middle of the desert where there is lack of medical care, lack of any kind of resources, to live in an RV with her and a man that she told me she was scared would hurt her one day, a man that was abusing her. It doesn't make sense to me. I even had an off feeling about the entire thing. I had asked my mom if I could come with her because I was ready to get out of the state too. And my mom straight up told me that I would not like living out there with Dennis. So why is she trying to convince my elderly grandmother to go move out there with him too? I think there's more to the story.
I want to add that when my sister called Brady upon receiving the first letter from Mr. Petrosky, he told us that our grandmother was so angry at us for not attending a birthday party that we weren't invited to and that we didn't even know about, that she asked our Aunt Terry to drive her to Mr. Petrosky's office to sign away her rights as trustees because inheritance is for children, not grandchildren. That does not sound like my grandmother. Also, how would that even be possible when my grandmother's birthday is on April 28th? According to public record, my grandmother, Terry, and Brady had not been trustees since March 22nd of 2023, a whole month prior to my grandmother's birthday. The properties had been removed on April 11th, more than a week before my grandmother's birthday. And they did all of this to capitalize on my mother's murder. I am not surprised that Brenda would be willing to help because she has assisted in hurting me and other people prior to this. I told her about how my family treated me, and she gaslit me, victim blamed me, and she even admitted that Brady has anger issues, as she's basically calling me a liar and telling me how horrible I am for talking about what kind of person he is. She just does as she's told, like an obedient dog. It isn't personal to her when she's the middleman doing dirty work in a family affair. She even sent me a message once. It's just business, Autumn. Really? Because the way I see it, it looks like financial fraud, Brenda. Maybe even more. My sister and I were eventually forced into signing the trust without ever viewing the contents due to hardship. She was on temporary disability for a back injury at work as a hospice nurse while being the sole breadwinner of a family of four with two kids, and her husband was going through liver failure. I'm personally I'm permanently disabled after my police assault, and my house was in foreclosure due to me legally fighting for answers in this entire situation. Our lawyer informed us that he could not tell us if we had a case or not because he was not given enough information to properly advise us on the matter. I paid $1,000 to basically just pay this lawyer to do some light research and send a couple of letters to this other lawyer. I'm glad I did it because I received the letter from Stan showing that he's lying, which is a smoking gun, in my opinion, that something is not right. But still, it's very frustrating because I really needed that money. I was in hardship, and my aunt and my uncle have all of this money while fucking us over. He did tell us that based on the clause Mr. Perchowski sent, it would likely be difficult to pursue a lawsuit. He was skeptical about what we could challenge based on the limited information he had about our specific circumstances. This could be considered signing under unconscionable conduct, which might make the documents we signed voidable anyway. Free consent is essential for the document to be valid. Financial pressure and coercion to sign without being properly informed about what we are signing limits our ability to freely consent to what we are signing. I was still in a very emotionally volatile point in my grieving process as all of this was going on. And this entire situation exacerbated how emotional I was. So I didn't notice a lot of the things that I am speaking about now until much later. I revisited all of the documents a year after signing them because I just had this nagging feeling that something was not right and I could not ignore it anymore. When we went to sign these documents, the lawyer was sweating profusely while we were there. He kept leaving the room and he avoided making eye contact with me every single time that I looked at him. He spoke meekly, not confidently like you would think a lawyer would talk. He seemed anxious that we were there. Why? I want to talk about my uncle specifically for a moment here. Going back to our grandmother's birthday and how what he claims she did involving the trust does not sound like her. On her birthday, Brady made a long Facebook post bragging about celebrating her all week long. In this post, he describes her as faithfully humble and loving while leading through patience and humility. That sounds like a contradiction to what he told my sister, because what he told my sister describes her as spiteful for us not wanting to be around the family. We distanced ourselves from the family because of Terry and Brady's behavior and their overbearing presence within her life. I would have loved to spend the last year with my grandmother, but I could not be around Terry and Brady, and they were always there like Big Brother looking over everything. Terry put cameras in her house, something that Nana even complained to me about before I went no contact with her. Brady moved his employee Danielle into the house within days of the murder to reduce the amount of money that was being spent on an at home nurse, like he told my Nana he wanted to do before my mom was killed because he, quote, didn't know how she would afford her home care after Papa's death, unquote. Caring for Nana after his death was Papa's main purpose for setting up the income only trust to begin with. So that makes no sense. That sounds like a lie. That sounds like manipulation. It sounds like gaslighting. But what really gets me about this post is Brady's language. He says, those responsible for Karen's life. Why is he using plural language when he describes my mother's death? Who is those, Brady? As far as the police are concerned, it's only Dennis. So, who are those? Why are you using plural language? I have been fascinated by criminal psychology my entire life. It has been a hobby of mine since I was a teenager, unknowingly trying to understand and cope with growing up surrounded by narcissistic personalities. If there is anything that I have learned, it's that they tell on themselves in ways that most people do not notice when they talk. They're these tiny little micro tells, and him using plural language is one of those tells. They paint themselves as good guys while painting their victims as wicked. I have been the family black sheep and scapegoat my entire life due to the mental struggles I have had as a result of abuse and neglect taking place within my family. Now I've been scapegoated further because I have become the truth teller, refusing to be what they expect me to be in a sick system. I was even accused of being involved in my mom's murder. If you ask me, that sounds like projection of guilt. And you'll never guess who's the one that suggested that I'm involved. Brady. After Nana died, Brady was making grandiose virtue signaling posts to Facebook, as always. He made one praising law enforcement for their quick response to him being a victim of theft. Oh, what do you know? He's a victim of theft, right? Um, Months later, he follows up about this being unhappy with the court's response. And he speaks as if he is this righteous voice of accountability. At one point, he says, I told them he committed a felony and that he should be tried to the fullest as such. And as a taxpayer who tries to do right by others and help my fellow man, okay, I'm going to stop right there because in Brady's world, it's accountability for everybody else's actions, but not for Brady Saunders. No, he's not accountable for anything that he does. It's just everybody else. He hasn't had that same energy when it comes to his own theft and mistreatment of human beings for profit. I mean, look at what he's done to my mom. He's literally used my mom's murder as leverage. He's profited off of my mom's murder. I know many others that he has not done right by or helped that feel powerless to speak up because they don't have money or resources like he does. And a lot of them, he has that money and those resources because he's taken it from these people. Some are scared of him. I used to be until I realized that by being silent, I'm allowing him to continue having control and power over me. People that hurt others, they love silence. It's how they get away with it. My mom was silent. Look at how her life turned out. People think I hate my family just because I'm done with their lies, manipulation, and abuse. People think I'm a liar because I want the truth. People think I'm crazy because my family has spent my entire lifetime creating mental instability within me. That way they can use it against me and paint themselves as the innocent people. I'm the problem. I'm just broken. There's just something wrong with me. It can't be all of the adults in my life that raised me, right? People ignore my experiences because I am the only one so far that has been brave enough to talk about them publicly out of multiple victims. I wish I didn't stand alone, but I can't force other people to stand with me. They have to make that decision themselves. And until they do, if they ever do, I guess I'm standing by myself. And it is a hill I will die on because I will always stand up for what I believe to be right. And I will climb this mountain for my mother no matter how high it goes. To close out 2023, Brady posted that he and Terry attended an event to honor homicide victims. Like many other posts he makes, he gains a bunch of sympathy and praise for himself. He's always getting multiple comments about how great he is. It's part of why he makes these posts. It feeds his ego. I personally feel like the look on my aunt's face is forced sadness for the camera. I honestly don't believe I've ever seen her or my uncle express genuine sadness. Terry drowns her feelings in alcohol. I don't know if Brady feels anything at all except his anger. I honestly feel sad for them because of the kind of people they are. I don't think they know what real love is, which is why they took it so personally when my sister and I decided we didn't want to tolerate their behavior anymore. They believe abuse is what love is, and it's not. My mom believed that too. My family has always seen me as weak because of how deeply I feel. The truth is, my big, soft heart is a gift in this cold, dark world. My ability to feel is my superpower. It took losing my mom to see it that way and to understand that. In this post, Brady says, "No one knows how a victim of homicide deals with the grief and loss and justice of it all." You're right, Brady. No, they don't. I have struggled to work for 3 years now. I have been silenced and my experiences minimized. I have lived in fear while Dennis walked free and my family terrorized me. I have suffered on my own without the support of my family or anyone that understands what I am going through. I have numbed myself with cocaine until I finally said enough is enough and I began sitting with my grief for the first time in my life. I have spent days crying hysterically. I have starved myself and eaten my feelings. I have screamed when I am alone in my house and punched pillows. I have laid in bed, unable to find motivation to do more than just exist. I have battled intrusive thoughts of being vengeful, knowing that I am not the person that that have harmed me want me to be. I have journaled hundreds of pages. I've spoken to my mother in my dreams. I have savored every small joy that reminds me of her, even as it feels like a knife in my chest. Most importantly, I have found the courage to find my voice. I have found self love, emotional independence, and purpose within my life after experiencing something that made me question if there is even meaning to life at all on deeper levels than I ever had before. What I haven't done to deal with it is use the situation to purposely spite my family. Everything I have done is about helping myself heal from a lifetime of trauma before I wind up just like my mother. And I was demonized for it. In the wake of her murder, my family claims to love and care about her while spiting her children as we grieve her loss. Yeah, no one really knows how a homicide victim deals with the grief and loss and justice of it all. Some of us use the experience to become better people, while others use it as their excuse to cause more harm. To close out his post, Brady says, I'm sorry we have to experience this, but honored to be with others who understand. Why do we have to experience it? Why are you sorry that we're experiencing it? Aren't you a part of this? Aren't you a part of us experiencing it? I'm sorry to others going through it because I don't want them to feel the pain that I feel. It isn't an honor to me to know that other human beings are suffering the way that I have. It's a disgrace that this is the world that we live in, not an honor. I'm not sorry to myself or my family because I am not responsible for what happened. I'm a victim in this too. Are you not a victim, Brady? Why are you sorry? It shouldn't have happened. What I want to know that the police don't seem to care about figuring out is why did it? What does Brady know? Personally, I think he knows more than he wants anyone to believe.
I want to circle back around to the Facebook post that Brady made where he's complaining about our justice system after he was a victim of theft. He states, I think someone needs to stand up and make some repairs to our current system, which is full of deferred maintenance issues. Well, Brady, we agree on something. Someone does need to stand up and make some changes to our current system, but I see different issues. I see corruption and negligence taking place. I see a system that is being used and abused to benefit predators. He says, can we not ask the proper questions until proper answers are given and put into action? I am. What can I do to help? Well, I don't think you're asking the right questions, Brady. And what can you do to help? You can answer some questions yourself because I know you have answers. I have a lot of questions that I would like answers to, but I'll focus on the biggest ones that I have for now. Why was Brady having secretive lunches with the man responsible for murdering my mother leading up to my grandfather's death? Why did my mom randomly decide she was letting Brady and Brenda sell her house so she could go live in an RV in the New Mexico desert with a man that was abusing her? Why did Brady try to convince my grandmother that she was running out of money? Why would my mom try to convince my elderly grandmother to move to the New Mexico desert to live in a small RV with an abusive man? Why would Brady threaten me for wanting to go to New Mexico with my sister and be involved in my mother's case? He got to go to New Mexico. He got to be involved. Why can't I? I'm her daughter. Why would Terry and Brady try to have me hospitalized against my will by the same sheriff's department that assaulted me and almost paralyzed me because of the trauma response that I had to him sending me a threatening text message? Why would Terry then ask about a restraining order to keep me away from my grandmother when I have never once threatened to harm my grandmother or posed a threat to my grandmother? Why would they tell Nana to keep it a secret from me that my mom's body had been found? Don't I have the right to know that as her daughter? Also, why would you think that is helping me? Because it's torture not knowing what happened to your loved one. I knew in my heart, but the body confirmed it. Why would Brady accuse me of being involved in my mother's murder? Why would Brady lie about the timeline of trustee rights being signed away? Nana's mental state was not great when I lived with her. So how could she be of sound mind to appoint Brenda White as the trustee after she had been under the influence of two clearly spiteful family members, Terry and Brady? The very people that drove my sister and I to distance ourselves from our grandmother and that benefited from manipulating her into doing this. Also, how is Brenda independent and uninterested when she is quite literally an employee and business partner of Brady? Why did Brady surround my grandmother with his employees anyway? Brenda said she doesn't know about family things and just does as she's told, yet she was obviously ready and willing to get involved in this family matter to benefit both Terry and Brady while fucking over my mother's estate. My murdered mother's estate. What did Brenda get out of this? My grandfather's estate paid off her house, presumably to prevent there from being a conflict of interest, because what stake would she have in it? But she's still my uncle's employee. Why would she assert herself into a family matter if she doesn't know anything or get involved? She told me Brady doesn't want to see me struggle or suffer when I suggested that he's taking out his revenge on me, yet she later helped him remove multiple properties from my mother's estate. Why would the lawyer lie about who the trustee is? Why would he withhold Brenda's involvement? Why would they refuse to let us see any of the inventory and accounting of the trust fund? If they have nothing to hide, why are there so many secrets, and why is there reluctance to show us the documents? It sounds like there's stuff to hide. It sounds like there's illegal activity going on. Also, why don't the police care about a large trust fund that was altered under suspicious circumstances surrounding a murder? Especially a murder that happened within a month of someone moving to their state. I personally feel New Mexico was chosen because it's easy to get away with serious crime there. And this has been backed up by multiple people that work within the system of New Mexico. And that sounds like a massive problem for the state, in my opinion. Why did the police chief yell at me, telling me not to tell his detective how to do his job, when All I did was tell the detective that if this trust fund situation has something to do with why my mom is now dead, it needs to be investigated. Why did the detective withhold information from me during this phone call that the DNA from the murder weapon was missing from evidence? He knew since September, and I made this phone call in November, and he withheld that information from me and my sister. I found out this information through a victim's advocate who was unrelated to my mother's case that I had reached out to for help. Why did the detective withhold that information in court and tell the judge that the reason it took so long was just because of a backlog of evidence for the singular crime lab in New Mexico to process? He even withheld information in court to a judge. Why did the detective answer most questions in court with, "I can't recall," and then mix up names of family members as if he didn't even bother to look over the case before he went to court? It's like he didn't even care about my mom. Why are they being negligent when my mother was brutally beaten to death by a man with a prior violent criminal history? None of it makes sense. And Brady says, "How can I help?" Well, answer some questions, Brady.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not. The only way the truth will ever come out is if it is investigated. I doubt any of the parties involved have enough of a conscience to come forward and tell the truth. If they did, why would they have done all of this anyway? I would love it if they would prove me wrong. If someone would listen and help me share my story, maybe my voice could actually mean something more in this world. Maybe my mom could actually have justice. Maybe I could help other victims' families have a voice to find justice of their own. Maybe I could help find solutions to the broken systems in place by calling attention to the problems that everybody has blinders on, ignoring. That is my intention. I want this world to be a better place. I don't want to find myself surrounded by more victims unless we are coming together to fight for change, to prevent more victims. The stories of victims matter. Truth matters. Thank you for listening. If you would like to follow my journey, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. I would also like some help in sharing this, as I stated before. So please like, comment, and share this video. That way, you're helping me call attention to what is going on within my mom's case. Something that is really common within our justice system. Again, it's not just my mother, and this is not just about me. This is about what is happening behind the scenes within the collective that a lot of people are not aware of is happening. If you would like more information about my project and who I am and why I'm doing this, please visit my website, electrichoneypotproject.com. I will include the link down in the description below. It is also located in my YouTube bio. And if you have a story that you would like to tell, I would love to hear from you. None of us should be doing this alone. We are stronger when we come together and we bear each other's burdens and look for solutions together. Please join me in my fight for truth, liberty, and justice for all. Remember to be curious, question everything. Most of all, stay sweet, honeybee. Sting where it counts.
That feeling when memories reminds you of the nicest thing that you ever bought for yourself to pursue your dreams of making music that was stolen by an abusive man.
That was rude. That was pretty fucking rude.